Hi, my name is Jordan Ramirez, and you are listening to a brand new episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. And with me today is my special guest, Jyoti Dhanota. Did I say that right?
Jyoti Dhanota, yeah.
Jyoti Dhanota. Okay. And the film that she has selected for today's episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez is The Dude in Me, released in 2019. Let me see if I can get the director is Kang, Jinyoung Jung, Jinyoung Jung, Kwang-gu Kim, Jung Joon Hyuk Lee, and Sunmin Lee. Uh, forgive me if I crush these names of the cast and the directors of who was involved in the film. The screenplay written by Kang Hyo Jin and Jo Joon Hyung, and cinematography by Son Sam Eun. And it's a really impressive film that I saw. So why did you pick this film?
I picked this film because I I got into K-pop, and then through K-pop I got through to K-dramas, and then obviously the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and comedy is something that, even like I feel there's two things that you always kind of just understand in a scene, and one, like, they're laughing or like subtitles obviously, and the plot of the movie, like there's so much that we can just dive deep into with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose it because, one, it was something very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's in another language, and I was still like laughing to the point of tears in my eyes. And three, that I think the cast and crew did just such an amazing job with the film.
Mm. I mean, I do like the aspect of mixing comedy with the action and mixing comedy with the fantasy, and also the idea of using the swap body trope.
Yeah.
It's been used in a number of different films. One example that I can think of is the Freaky Friday films, the original from
Oh yeah.
70, yeah, the original from 76 and the remake in 2003, which also uses the concept of the body swap. So it is a pretty interesting take of using that trope or that cliche, but it's done in a different perspective. So is there something that you would say stands out to you as sort of unique or is different that makes the swapping body trope different from, let's say, mainstream Hollywood films?
I think that for this one, for me, I like think I like the Freaky Friday films is what you're talking about, and then I think, like, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like in one of the Twitches films,
Hmm.
on Disney Channel, I think they did that too.
I
But it's like you kind of see what was coming, like it's like, okay, they're gonna, like, this is what's gonna happen, and it's kind of like the ending is always just predictable versus this one where it's just like um they had the whole like movie kind of going with the same like throughout.
yeah.
Whereas
um
like in Hollywood, it's like prior to the like climax, and then like they switch bodies back, but this one is just like going in that sense.
it is. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting take on that trope. And what I thought was interesting is the idea of having a high school student mixed with that of a powerful gangster
Right.
uh who is a very flawed character who has regrets, and he also has a lot of regrets with he with his daughter and with his wife, and also the fact that he is married to the daughter of a powerful company,
Yeah.
the chairman of the company, and there's a lot of conspiracy and espionage and all that going on. And then you have the high school student who is perceived as the weak character, who is not that defensive,
Yeah.
and
That was
and
actually
he
one of my favorite parts of the movie too, when like after the body switch, when it's
mm-hmm,
like, because he's no longer that guy.
mm-hmm.
And so when that body switch happens and he goes to high school, like, or back to, school as this gangster now, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, what just happened to him?
Yeah.
Like, oh my, what just happened to him?
Mm.
That was like the funniest thing too.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty interesting it's a pretty interesting trope. And also what I also find interesting in the middle in the middle of the film going to later in the film is also there's the transformation, like the physical transformation and the character transformation that goes with it, which I thought was a pretty interesting take, because you
Right.
have the high school student who is the gangster in the body of the high school student. He's physically transforming from this weak and large kid to this skinny and handsome youth who basically looks just like the gangster. And also, it's not just him, it's also his daughter, because she was very vulnerable,
Yeah.
because after she takes the gymnastics classes and she becomes more defensive, she becomes more independent and fierce,
Mhm.
just like her dad was, but she's
Yeah.
trying to understand about why she never saw her father, but which I thought was a pretty interesting familial idea that wove into this picture.
I think the character development throughout the movie is just incredible.
Hmm. Very fascinating. So now that we have talked a little bit about the film, let's segue into comedy and languages. So what are the different types of comedy in like international comedy that sort of appeals to you, that may be different from what we are so used to seeing in the United States? And what is the appeal that you find so interesting?
Okay, so like basically, I grew up watching more like Nickelodeon movies, Disney Channel, Pixar, like all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So comedy in that sense, like I never really. I mean, yeah, it was some stuff that was like funny, but it was
Mm-hmm.
never. Oh my god, my stomach hurts. Funny, you know.
Mm.
So
Okay.
like me, I'm Punjabi, so like watching Punjabi movies. Grew up watching like Punjabi movies. Like started taking effect in like well, I think that they kind of like just like skyrocketed out of nowhere, kind of in like 2016-ish. So I kind
Mm.
of grew up more with Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just don't like Bollywood at all. After like I started watching Punjabi movies,
Mm.
that like aspect of different languages, because Bollywood is Hindi and the Punjabi movies are Punjabi, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like the movie we're talking about right now is a Korean film too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like if you have like subtitles on or anything, you kind of understand. You see the plot going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, it's like you can understand. You don't need to like really get the language, because sometimes I'll be watching the movie and I'll be like, oh great, my subtitles are not on.
Yeah. But I also like that in some international films, when they do comedy, they also say they take inspiration from American films or American consumer culture, but they also try to do their own version of it, whether it's slapstick or whether it's combining slapstick with the action for the humor, say the Jackie Chan Hong Kong movies, or yeah, or the film of Stephen Chow, like Kung Fu Hustle, for example, where he does his own take on the kung fu genre, but he does it in a sort of absurdist, surreal, and slapstick type of comedy mold. I think is what I understand is appealing on an international level, when people see comedy from a different perspective or from a different country. They always think that comedy is supposed to be verbal, but it could also be visual too, whether it's done through choreographed routines, and it has to be done because physical comedy is nothing is not different from verbal. It's very much similar. It's the same.
Yeah,
It's what I think is so appealing when you see other filmmakers taking inspiration and they do it a twist of it, or they try to make it their own, which is something I find appealing.
yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know like in a lot of K movies, like Korean movies, um, mostly what I watch is comedy. Just
Mm-hmm.
like not even just like Korean, but in general, I like to watch comedy
Mm-hmm.
because it like when you're watching a comedy, you kind of just forget about your day. You know, like you're just so
Yeah.
in the movie that you just forget about your day versus like drama or like like a historical movie or anything of that sort kind of
Mm-hmm.
um where you're just like no, I don't want to watch this, or like but with comedy you forget everything because you're just like laughing and you want to keep laughing, you know.
Yeah. I yeah, it does make sense. And I think what I also like about international comedy to me, I mean, I'm so used to seeing comedy like the older comedies in the United States, but the one thing I like about comedies internationally is, as I mentioned before, I like the physical slapstick of it, but I also love the choreographed routines, and I also like how you have regular actors who are not used to being in comedies being themselves, and also having an ordinary person being okay, I'll put this person in as an example, Jacques Tati from the French films in the
Mhm.
50s and early 60s up until the 70s. He was somebody who I thought was very funny. I watched one of his films from the 50s because you didn't need to put on subtitles to understand the humor of what's going on. You just had to watch the physical slapstick moments because it's so timed and it's so choreographed, and you just had to wait for the right moment where you just laughed. Whereas maybe if it's an unpredictable comedy, I don't know of any other country that would use unpredictable comedy on that scale.
Yeah.
It's almost like a what the F type moment. Like what just happened, what's going on, what where is this going, that sort of direction, which I thought is pretty interesting from a different cultural perspective. But that's what I think is so appealing from an international perspective that I would like that maybe I have yet to see more that I feel like I wanted to expand my horizon a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have like a favorite like American comedian? Because for me, like the movies that I like would put on for like my students or something would well Tyler Perry, like one of those movies.
Hmm.
I put those on for once, and then like myself personally, I like at home and stuff. I love to watch Kevin Hart.
Oh wow. Um, um, well, I the film that I remembered watching when I was very younger was the Airplane movie, the Zucker Abrams Zucker movie, where they had like the moment of using physical gags or moments that just were like Spitfire type comedy. That was something I used to enjoy. Um, but if it's a contemporary comedian or if it's a contemporary comic, um, well, there is this one film I did watch when I was at the film festival, Leroy, Texas, which is sort of inspired by the Coen brothers. It's a dark comedy film. It involves a man who was mistaken to be he is mistaken as a hitman, and he is given cash, and all of a sudden he's been involved in a lot of like crazy things. And Steve Zahn, who plays the sheriff in this small town, he's basically like his sidekick. And there's a lot of like dark, humorous moments in this movie that I thought, oh my God, this fits exactly like what Coen Brothers movie I would think of. Big Lebowski, Barton Fink, A Miller's Crossing, Raising Arizona, Hudsucker Proxy, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Those types of early comedy movies. But that the but in terms of like comedian, I don't know off the top of my head except I don't know. It's difficult for me to find a contemporary comic who would fit into someone I look up to or someone I think of as funny.
Oh, okay, yeah, like, for me, it's definitely, like, Tyler Perry movies are my like, Hollywood, because 'cause you're talking Hollywood and international. So, like,
Hmm.
Hollywood definitely would be Kevin Hart. Um, who directs the Tyler Perry movies? They're
Oh, Tyler Perry. He
yeah,
directs his own work.
Madea movies is what I meant to say, the Madea
The,
movie.
yeah, the
Tyler
Medea films. Yes. Uh,
um, and
yeah.
then, like, I also recently in February, March,
Mm.
like, I watched all 4 seasons that are available on Amazon Prime of The Neighborhood. So
Oh.
Matt Field, Cedric the Entertainer, that was just from the trailer. I was like, I have to watch this because I just like could not stop laughing at the trailer.
That's good. But yeah, it's hard for me to find a contemporary comic or something that I would find funny to me because I sometimes I would like to watch something that's a little bit different or maybe a little bit international. Um, but it's either for me, it's the absurdist movies. There's this director from France, and he directed a lot of these absurdist comedies, well, dark humor absurdist comedies that I'm trying to think of, but I don't remember the name right now. But he directed a film called Mandibles, which is so absurd. It's basically two guys literally out of Dumb and Dumber who find a giant fly inside their who find a giant fly inside the back of their trunk of their car, and they try to teach it as their pet, and they try to make money off of it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really absurd. It's like that type of humor I enjoy. The other is a take on the superhero movie called Smoking Causes Coughing, which I thought was really absurd about the superhero team, which they call themselves the Tobacco Force, and their team leader is a rat. It's like think Power Rangers meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Okay. I was thinking
meets
like G-Force because you said rat.
yes. So yeah, so yeah, the only way I could describe it is basically mix Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because their leader is a rat, and
Oh yeah.
also the absurdity of it is what I liked about it. It's anything that's surreal, absurd, or anything that's just like a little bit darkly humorous, but I just find it to be something that I enjoy. Anything nonsensical or illogical is what I always enjoyed.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Like definitely like just full of nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, anything that's full of nonsense or anything that to me says this is the type of comedy I would enjoy because I would laugh so hard I could not breathe afterwards.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
there's like K dramas like that too. Because I know we're
Mm,
talking movies, but like dramas, there's so like so many of them. I would have to go through my phone really like and just like bring it up. But I think I want to say it was True Beauty or My
mm,
Idea is Gangnam Beauty. I know Cha Eun was in it.
mm.
Um, and that was just there were some scenes he had with I have to look it up. Just I'm sorry, one second.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's True Beauty.
Oh, it's True
And
Beauty.
True Beauty is a Korean drama,
Okay.
and I will so in it it's Cha Eun and Hong In Yu, and
Okay.
I think yeah, um, and they have such like bromance kind of scenes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And same with like School 2013. There's like some romance scenes in there too, and those are just the funniest. Like over the romance because it is like a romance kind of, but
Yeah.
the romance scenes are just hilarious.
Mm. I sometimes I always find I know this is not necessarily comedy, but whenever I try to watch a serious drama or sometimes a medical drama, there's always moments that feel unintentionally comedic, like it's trying to be dramatic, but it feels so overdone. Uh some One example I could give is the Good Doctor on ABC, which I know is entering its last season because since you mentioned Korean dramas, this one
Yeah,
was adapted from a Korean
yeah,
drama and Americanized, which I thought was pretty interesting. The only thing I found that is unintentionally comedic for me are sometimes the medical sequences or the scenes where a patient goes to where the patient that's already being treated is fine, but somebody else is already not fine. Like it just happens suddenly, and I'm like, okay, that's unintentionally comedic. Like
right.
it, yeah, because it just happened out of nowhere, and you're thinking, okay, what's happening? Or sometimes whenever it's the emotional scenes, it's a little bit comedic to me because I don't think of it as serious. I think of it as a little bit somewhere like kitsch or camp in that moment. Um, so that's just me and so that's just how I see comedy that's unexpected or unintentional in those types of dramas, whether it's unintentionally comedic or maybe it's a little bit over the top.
Yeah, and that's why I love watching the last like behind the scenes and the bloopers
Mm-hmm.
because that's like how you're talking about like, oh wait, that's not what I was supposed to say. You know,
No.
like that's not like or like what's my line again? Or like they just start laughing and I'm just like, oh my
Mm,
god.
yeah, it is really that much. But yeah, before I never used to watch K dramas or K films before. The other K film that I watched was Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer before it was turned into a television series, I think on TNT.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, but it's a pretty interesting film with an international cast. I mean, you got Chris Evans, you got Chris Evans, John Hurt. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. Well, there are some big names in this film that I'm trying to remember. Uh, Chris Evans, John Hurt. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the English actress. She was good in the role. She was good in the film too. Octavia Spencer was another one, and it's a pretty interesting film. It's an international cast, and it all takes place inside one big, large train, and it's set in a dystopian future, which I thought was a pretty interesting film.
Are you talking about Train to Busan?
Uh, no, not Train to Busan.
Oh,
It's Snowpiercer 2013, directed by Bong Joon-ho, who directed Parasite, which won for Best Picture in
oh,
20.
Parasite. Yes, I saw that. Yes.
Yes. I have not seen it, but I have seen Snowpiercer, which was one of his works, or The Host or Old Boy, two of his other pictures, which I think Old Boy, I think, was adapted from a comic book or was an original story, and I think The Host was his take on the kaiju monster genre. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Have
so
you seen Train to Busan?
uh, I have never seen Train to Busan.
Oh,
No, I've heard of.
no. Oh. You've heard of it though, right?
I have heard of it. I've heard it's a zombie film, and I think half of the story takes place on a subway or a train. Is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one? Okay, and it's supposed to be a drama that's set inside just one location, a train, and it's in the middle
Yes.
of a zombie attack, is what I've read.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Okay, so yes,
I
I've heard.
If you want to get into K movies, like everybody has seen Train to Busan. It's like when you get into K dramas, right? Everybody starts with Boys Over Flowers,
Okay.
and then you kind of figure out what your genre is. Like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. And then like a lot of people now prefer to watch whatever's on Netflix. I'm still like on Viki and Amazon Prime because I feel like they have better dramas
Hmm.
than Netflix puts out.
Yeah. Particularly. So yes. So Train to Busan. I never saw it, but I've heard of it, and I may have seen clips from the film that almost everybody references or discusses
Yeah.
on other podcasts or on other websites. But yeah, I have heard of it, and it's an interesting zombie movie. Which I thought is pretty interesting. So yeah,
So then,
uh,
did you end up watching like Squid Games? I know Squid Games was very popular.
no, I never
Oh,
watched Squid Games. I know I know I miss out on anything that's big, but I'm trying to like steer away from whatever is popular right now
that's what I
because
do. Yeah, I do that too. I don't like to watch like my sister likes to watch whatever's on Netflix, and
hmm.
like I'm saying, I don't watch stuff that's like trending.
Yeah, I would just try to avoid it and just go with my own way. Like try to watch whatever I think is good
Yeah.
versus what other people would say is good. That's sort of
Yeah.
my yeah, that's sort of my mantra. But yeah, so it's an interesting film that you have chosen, The Dude in Me, and I thought it was a pretty enjoyable film. Also getting into a little bit of Korean comedy, which I thought
Yeah.
was pretty interesting.
I have like recommendations open if you want to like note some
Oh
down.
yeah. Oh, please, please. Any
Like all
recommendations similar to The Dude in Me from 2019? You're more than welcome to recommend whatever comedy similar to this film is out there that maybe my audience or listeners could enjoy.
so I have a Chinese drama also. It's called A Little Thing Called First Love. That's a
Oh,
Chinese drama.
okay, a little thing called First Love.
Yeah. And then I'm like going through my right now. Oh, and then so I married the anti fan. That was a good one too.
What's the name of the title?
So I married the anti fan.
So I married the Antifa.
I know anti fan.
Anti
Anti
Oh,
fan.
so I married the anti-fan. Okay. All right. That's good. That's a good
And if you like
recommendation.
crime and mystery, then The Devil Judge is really good.
The Devil Drudge or Grudge?
Judge,
Oh,
like
Judge.
judge.
The Devil Judge. Okay.
You like crime
Oh,
and mystery? That one was really good.
okay. That's good to me. Does it feature like some of the same ideas as the film were discussing?
The Devil Judge.
Yes.
No, that's more crime and mystery
Oh,
in like
okay.
dystopian South Korea of the future.
Okay. Yeah, those are good recommendations. Yes.
Startup is a kind. It's like The Dude in Me. It is a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about people turning 18 and just being unhappy with like his life.
Yes.
Like his life is going nowhere, much like his faulty motorbike that he bought online.
Mm-hmm.
So, they kind of do like a startup business and stuff, but it was very, very funny. It has like a 9.2 rating.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad I got to watch it and I got to see the movie. Um, it's a lot of fun. It's action packed. It's comic. It's so comical, and at moments in the film, it does go a little bit towards the surreal and moments that feel a little bit cringe to me when I watch it. Uh, the moments where you have the gangster and the teenage boys, the high school boy's body,
Mhm.
saying that the height he loves the mother of his high school classmate. It's
Oh
moments like
yeah.
yeah, moments like that where I'm like, it's a little bit weird to have
Oh yeah. Yep.
yeah, it's weird and it's somewhat cringe to me to see moments like that, and I'm like, I don't know how I could take a scene like that because A, you're not an adult, you're a high schooler, physi you're physically a young high school boy, but you have the mind of a gangster who is older and
Yeah.
he's trying to fit in with the other high school students and moments like what are the kids into these days or
Right. Right.
yes, or what are the kiddos saying? Or basically, like, what is life like as a high school student? Because I haven't been in school, or I haven't done this, or that is so 80s. What are we in the 80s decade now? Do people still talk like this?
Right.
Yeah, that type of
What was the
yeah,
Okay, go ahead. I
yeah.
was gonna say like American movies, like there's a movie, it's animated. It was number 8 in the US and it's called The Bad Guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw the bad guys. I saw it in theaters a few years ago. I saw it when they did digital 3D. I didn't see it when I didn't see it in the regular 2D process. But yeah, I would say it's a good recommendation based on the book series by Jacob Tremblay or somebody like that. But it's a good watch for those who have not seen it.
Yeah, it was very funny. And it was
It is
something very unique too.
yeah, yeah, very very unique. So before we wrap up, do you think you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the books that you have written before we before we wrap things up?
Yeah, sure. So I started writing in 2022.
Okay.
Um, just because I had like in 2021 I went through like a period of depression, and then I read this book called Court of Silver Flames, and I was very much able to relate to Nesta, who like shuts people out when she faces depression.
Mm.
And I was like, if I can read a character that's relatable, I can probably write characters that are relatable. So I began writing, and as of today, May 4th, I now
Mm-hmm.
have 12 books available on Amazon
Mm.
published.
You have how many books published?
12.
Oh, 12 books published.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so where can my audience find you or look up the names of your books so that they can look them up on Amazon?
Yeah, they're available on Amazon, but you guys can find me on Instagram, TikTok at Geet is booked. So Geet is booked.
Geet is booked.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, yes. So what type of books in what genre have you written that maybe my audience will make sure to know this is the books that my guest has been talking about?
So recently, I do write romance, but the most recent one I did is a reverse billionaire trope. So
Mm,
reverse billionaire is basically, you know how in most books the guy is the rich person, the girl's like what like. So I switched it. The girl is the billionaire,
mm.
and the guy is a journalist.
Oh wow.
Like
That
barely making, how like journalists are barely making something. I have a
mm.
minor in journalism, so I can back that up. Yeah.
Uh,
So it's a switch on that billionaire trope when it's like you're reading it and the guy's the rich person again, and the guy's the rich person again, and
mm.
this time it's like the girl is. the rich one, and she like takes him in, whereas he's pretending to be a high-end billionaire, even though he's not like a high-end real estate agent.
Mm.
So he's like not even close to like 1,000 air or something, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, something that I yeah, so, so the name of the book is Reverse Billionaire, is that the name of it?
No, the book's name is The Billionaire's Gambit.
The Billionaire's Gambit. Oh, that's good. So, and this book was published, when was this book published?
April 25th, 2024.
Oh, so, recently. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's what I said, the most recent one. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. So before uh so before we wrap things up, do you have any last words or recommendate or any last words about this film that maybe my audience could say this is something that is totally something I would look up and something that maybe I would get interested in before I start learning more about K movies?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I would say that, check it out. And then I would like I gave recommendations in the podcast as well.
That's good.
If you feel like you want to break it down and not just dive right into a movie, then start with like K dramas. He is
Mm-hmm.
Psychometric is really good. The Devil Judge is really good. Invitation is really good if you like dramas.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy wise, there's a lot of comedy. Just like if I started listing them, like I would just forget something. So you would just put comedy, you're pretty much set because the directors, if they're filming a comedy, they know they're filming a comedy. If they're filming a drama, they know they're filming a drama.
Mm.
Versus like American movies when they say it's a rom com, and you're like, where's the com part of this? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's a hit or miss if it's supposed to be like a genre. It's mixed if it's mixing. Excuse me, if it's mixing two different genres and you're missing like one part of it, then it's not necessarily a rom com or an action comedy. It's more one genre versus the other. Is what
Right.
I'm getting at. But yeah, great recommendations, great movie, and also thank you for being on the show. And it was, and I would say it's an honor to have you on the podcast because I thought international comedies and anything that would make audiences laugh are something that I think we need in today's environment today, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with like here in America, it's like a melting pot, So there's different cultures to like blend in and everything. So being able to just understand different languages, different cultures, like the dry cleaner here, she's Korean,
Mm-hmm.
and she started counting in Korean, and I was like, "Are you Korean?" And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Are you Korean?" And she's like, "What?" And then I said it in Korean. I was like, "한국 사람이요?" And she was like, "Whoa, like you speak Korean so well." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I learned from like movies and dramas."
Mm.
So yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, I love the film The Dude in Me, and I also like the recommendations. And maybe in the future we could have some more discussions discussing about the other recommended films that you have just mentioned, and then we could maybe discuss when we would meet in the future.
Oh yeah, I would love to. Like, I would love to talk about K dramas instead of like a movie as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So this has been Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. You have been listening to this episode with me, your host, Jordan Ramirez, and my guest on the show, Jyoti Dhanota, uh, the author and also somebody who is interested in K dramas and comedies and all things comedy and languages. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to see each other soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.